First thing you see when you look at the Seven Deadly Sins cover is a young boy, a girl in the background, and a pig in the background. This doesn't tell you much, but it does look intriguing, especially with that broken sword with a dragon on it. When you open up the manga, you're greeted with this beautiful image of someone looking through a knight's mask to see a little tiny building in the distance, and it does a absolutely perfect way of drawing your eye from panel to panel in the form of an S before reading the title Seven Deadly Sins. Now we're finally getting greeted to a character, the young boy that was on the cover. He's handing out beer and food as the patrons of the bar are discussing the fact that it's weird that there's a bar currently there. He cooks them some horrible food, he calls the pig to come and eat it up, and we get a bit of comedy between them. And then conveniently enough, people start talking about the Wandering Rust Knight, which, as soon as they do, it gives you a shot at the Seven Deadly Sins and yet a small preview of their names and slight images of their photos, as well as a fun little bit of exposition. Then we finally get to know the main character on the front's name is Meloidas, and all of a sudden, the Wandering Rust Knight walks in declaring the Seven Deadly Sins. The bar empties, the night collapses, and we quickly find out that it's a woman under there. And then we get a bit of comedy where Meloidas seems to be groping the unconscious woman. As she awkwardly wakes up, he says that her heartbeat is regular, and the pig is calling him out on that. She finds out that they're in his tavern and that the sword that people were talking about prior is actually just broken. It's just to keep people from skipping the bill. And at this point, we're 20 pages in, and they're giving you enough character acting between the small cast that's currently being introduced between the pig, Meloidas, and the mysterious girl at this point, that it's fun dialogue. They're bouncing off each other very naturally, and it didn't feel too forced of the exposition dumps that the people were giving in the background. It did just seem like random little chatter. Then she gets excited when she realizes the pig can talk. The pig's name, we now find out, is Hawk. As Meloidas offers her some food, she finds it disgusting, as we could tell would happen prior when he fed other people before, but it's more tears of gratitude than of disgust. As Meloidas is finally about to start discovering what this girl was doing, they get interrupted by some of the holy knights that serve under the foot of the mountain. We get a fun little skit where Hawk is now wearing the armor of prior, and as the knights are starting to get aggressive to Meloidas, we see Elizabeth running away and them chasing in pursuit. Again, I would like to mention that the art direction in this 2-page split is absolutely gorgeous. It travels with your eyes perfectly. So noting that you'd be reading this back to front, so you'd potentially be looking at the knights, looking at Elizabeth, then your eyes naturally bounce right back to Alione, whose fist is currently in the air, and then connects back to Elizabeth, who's running again. And then as you look over to the next page, you get her sliding, and the way that she jumps up is actually drawing you to the next panel of the knights, and because they're going in a downward motion, you naturally get drawn to the last panel of these 2 pages. The art being displayed is absolutely stunning. But from that point, we're noticing that Hawk is taking out all of these knights until we get to Alione getting knocked off the cliff and Meloidas holding the girl up in the tree. Then we see a mysterious foot thumping on the ground as we get a bit more details about why this person's looking for the 7 deadly sins. We find out the holy knight's meant to be good, but they're actually quite bad, as this woman is describing it, and her reasonings for looking for the 7 deadly sins because they're the most strong possible knights in existence, and she believes they're the only ones that can actually stop the Holy Knight. And we get this interesting full page with a black backdrop of all the knights in the background of the exposition. And just something I want to point out really quickly is 2 of the weapons on display, technically 3 actually, of the unnamed characters that we are being presented with. There is one holding a sword, one holding 2 daggers, and one holding what appears to be a spear. I find this quite interesting that obviously the concept does change at some point, because we eventually do find out that these are not their actual weapons of choice. But we'll touch on that when we get a bit closer to finding out what those weapons are. Anyway, as they continue talking about how the 7 deadly sins should be dead, we are then interrupted by some shaking. And then we go to the next page where the cliff is collapsing with a knight standing at the top of it. They are falling down, and then we get to see Twiggo with his mighty glory, showing absolutely no compassion to his ally as the knights ask, but Alione was at the bottom of the cliff, and he's just saying, well, that just makes another person in the report dead. As he threatens his own teammates, we see Meloidas jump back with not only the girl and Hawk, but also carrying Alione, who was currently worried about being just dead. Then we find out that Twiggo has discovered that Princess Elizabeth is actually the girl's name and threatens to kill her on the spot. She says she can't be captured and then makes a run for it. Then we're seeing Twiggo do another foul swoop, and I just gotta say, I love the expression Meloidas is giving while he's running at the moment. It is just so funny and out of place while Elizabeth is in this panic and he's just doing a casual jog. And we get this beautiful shot of the tree clearing getting absolutely demolished. As Hawk runs away, Elizabeth starts approaching Twiggo, just saying that she'll surrender because she doesn't want Meloidas to lose his life. As Twiggo attacks, Meloidas jumps in the way and saves Elizabeth from harm's way. She starts crying, saying how she was so happy that she was never treated so nice before, especially after doing such a hard situation of walking with that heavy armor. She then finds out that Meloidas is the main character's name, and realizing Meloidas is actually one of the 7 deadly sins with the tattoo of the dragon. Next time we see Twiggo strike, it is getting reflected back at him, as we see that the broken blade had done that with Meloidas. Then suddenly, as Twiggo's realizing who he's up against, taking a final swing, Meloidas does his soon-to-be iconic full counter, declaring his name the 7 deadly sins, Dragon Sin of Wrath, Meloidas. Explaining to Elizabeth that she has found her first sin, and they jump onto Hawk's mum, ditching the current knights that were after them and starting their journey. So this being the very first chapter that the 7 deadly sins elaborates on, it is very intriguing. It gives you a lot to want to take out of the story. You've got characters that you're wanting to discover. You've got a journey. You've got a antagonist, an unnamed antagonist just being an army. The odds seem stacked against them. Very enticing to want to read more of. It also helps that I think the comedy is played very well. Meloidas even cheekily grabbing Elizabeth's boob again when they're hiding in the trees, showing before of how he was a pervert prior, but also redeeming himself slightly by showing how badass he can actually be, because he is Meloidas, the Dragon Sin of Wrath. There are definitely things that I look at here and notice the difference between this and the anime. However, I will touch on that when we get to the anime portion of this series. For now, we're just going to read the story as if it was my first time reading it. And after the second volume, that will actually be the truth until we get up to about chapter 200. But with what we've been left with through chapter 1 is that we find that Elizabeth is a notably brave and proud princess, trying to stand up what she believes in, which is other people, hence why she's trying to look for these supposedly bad people that she couldn't trust, even though the supposedly good people are hurting the innocent people. Meloidas is just this fun little questionable goofball who just has a badass moment towards the end, and Hawk is clearly the straight man in this situation, but also able to play up some of the laughs. But as we go to the next chapter, we're looking at their journey with Vanya. Also wanting to quickly mention before I forget and end the video, the manga is being written by Nakabe Suzuki, whose art style is absolutely beautiful and unique, and definitely on the best display it can be, especially with volume 1, as you tend to find most mangas will actually do. Seeing some things which you'll eventually find being tropes, such as the very sexually arousing outfits or situations he'll be putting the women in, that he'll be clearly using for comedic purposes. But apart from that, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye. You thought the video was over? If you didn't know, I stream on twitch.tv/SimpleAttack, and you can see me from Tuesdays at 9 AM, Wednesdays at 7 PM, Thursdays at 4 PM, and Fridays again at 7 PM. Also, did you know that I have a Discord that you can join? Click the link down below to get in on that and join an awesome community of people. Before I forget to say as well, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tick that notification bell so you don't miss any of these videos. Also, pretty cool, if you like that little logo up there, you can actually get that slapped on some merch. Check it out. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can also go support me on Patreon, and you can see the interesting developments that we have with the random token generator, and also with the art that I'll be making. And last but not least, we've got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Feel free to follow me on any of those social media platforms. Twitter is probably the one that I'll use most commonly, and then you'll be able to interact with me on a daily basis. Apart from that, thanks for watching the video, guys. Peace out.